But now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce another one of our educators to our board of directors. Dr. Margaret Stevens is a U.S. Army veteran of 97 to 2003. She was a first responder after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. She currently serves as Associate Professor of History and Director of the Urban Issues Institute at Essex County College in Newark, New Jersey. Please welcome Margaret Stevens.
I won't be long, I'm sorry, because I was late. I really did think it was at 1 o'clock today, not 10:30, and I called Michael from Greensboro at 9 o'clock, like, okay, I'm on my way, I'll be there in time. He said, well, not really, because it starts at 10:30, so I went 85 the whole way and made it. I promised him I wasn't gonna speed, but I totally sped. Anyway, so I won't be long at all. What I can say is that I became active in the movement in 2007 and through IVAW, which was a life-changing experience. And this past year, being on the board of VFP has been really critical to my commitment to a lifelong commitment to fighting. It is fighting, however we see it, on behalf of the folk in the anti-war movement and the people around the world who take on the question of the folk in the military as a critical group of people that we target in our work. And so this past year has been so important. It's been such a nurturing group of leaders in VFP at the board level, and we've had some of the most intense struggles and struggles, political struggles. So I don't know if any of that came out in what you heard this morning, but I mean, we got at the core of a lot of issues, because a lot of us on the board this year are very no-holds-barred people. So when you put them all together onto one board, and I hope that a lot of that comes through over the course of this next couple days. And there's no way in a couple sentences that I could capture just how transformative this year has been for those of us on the board. Sometimes we've been caught up, I'd say, in silly stuff, but for the most part, it's been really, really foundational. And one of the breakthroughs was Michael really trying to drive home this question of, and it was, I would say Michael, for who stood out for me, above all, driving home this question of what are we doing about what's happening right here, because I really want to get involved with the peace work in my community. I remember sitting down with him in Newark and talking about this. And so we knew that what we call the war at home, war abroad was going to become the issue we wanted to take on through VFP. And I remember sitting in a meeting and we called it a lens. We didn't just see it as a slogan, but as a way of understanding the world. It became part of your vision, so that when you talk about struggle, my struggle is your struggle because it's our lens. It's our way of understanding the world, to understand that when you're attacked, I'm attacked as well. And many people in this room understand what that means, right? When it comes to the militarization of the schools, the privatization of the schools, the militarization of the police, we understand what it means to say that when a middle-class white person loses their job at a pharmaceutical company after being there for 25 years, that has a relationship to the high unemployment rates of Black and Latino people in Newark. Like, a lot of us understand what that means. The question is, what do we do? And so we talked a lot about the war at home, war abroad concept, but then I remember it was somebody in the last board meeting that we had here in North Carolina a couple months ago who said, yeah, but we're proactive, so we don't focus on war, we focus on peace. So instead of calling it war at home, war abroad, let's call it peace at home, peace abroad. And I have to say that I think that that was a breakthrough in the anti-war movement, because I don't think anybody has ever tried to coin the phrase peace at home, peace abroad. And I think that if we really embrace that concept and make it a global concept, we are now positioning ourselves to be at the leadership of a proactive, vision-oriented means of understanding how to link the struggles here with the struggles of people beyond the borders of this country. And it's deeper. because, you know, we're thinking proactively, right? So we're not just thinking about the beast. We're not just thinking about the war machine and, you know, the United States military in conjunction with all the other forces. Like, we understand that and we know that, and some of the people in this room have lived that, and they're missing limbs because of that. But we understand it proactively, so we don't just see the problem. We see the solution in terms of our relationship to people at the local and global level. So that's why the concept of peace at home, peace abroad is a fundamental step forward from the concept of the war at home, war abroad. That's the first thing for you to understand. So please embrace that concept and take it home and give it the life of what it means. The second thing that we came up with was the idea that it's not about connecting the dots. It's not about the connecting the dots. It's about uncovering the connections that already exist. When you talk about connecting the dots, you make the impression that it's isolated individual situations that have nothing to do with each other. But when you say, no, the dots are connected, but people don't get it, that's different. And so we made that step forward as well. So we don't want to talk about connecting the dots. We want to talk about making those differences, what appear to be differences, overcoming those divisions so that people understand the fundamental relationship. And I speak to you very wholeheartedly from the position, okay, I'm a professor at Essex County in Newark, but I was in IVAW when I was in school, before I was a professor. So I was doing the same thing whether I was a professor or not. And I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I came back to Newark, New Jersey to be a professor in my community, not just because the students needed me, because they do, but because I need them too, right? What would I do with this degree? Go off onto the world and live in some bubble with the other people who speak that bubble language of academia and can't translate that language to the people in the streets who are living and fighting and dying a struggle every single day. So it's not even so much that they needed me in some sort of paternalistic sense. I needed them just as much to stay grounded, and so that everything that I read in those books of Frantz Fanon and Amilcar Cabral and W.B. Du Bois and Marx and all the other people I read could mean something real for me too. Because you could leave school and be just as confused. And so the problem, though, and the reason, and I'll just close out here, the reason why we really wanted to stress the peace at home, peace abroad, is because what happens is when you bring everybody together in these close, safe spaces like this, where everybody is progressive in some sense and everybody is committed on some level to working across lines of race and class and gender, when you do that, it makes sense theoretically in this room. The question is what happens when we leave? So we know that, and that's the theme all the time. But when I leave, I don't have a choice but to deal with the problems that Black and Latino people face every single day, because I live there. I live with them, and I breathe it, and they're my students, and they quit school, they quit semesters, they have to stop because their cousin just got shot. You know, those people that just died in Chicago, my family is from Chicago because my family came from Alabama and went to Chicago. So it's not theoretical for me when we talk about the 4th of July and people who get shot in Chicago, because my people are from Chicago. They're from the south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago, where you go now and it's been gentrified. So they've been forced out. They've been forced into the suburbs. And when you drive through the neighborhoods where we grew up, it's not just the fact that they took our homes from us, it's that that's where you played. That's where you threw rocks at each other. That's where you went to the corner store. That's where you had your first kiss. That's what gentrification means. So that's war. When you go back to the neighborhood where you grew up and you see that the house that you grew up in looks beautiful now all of a sudden, but it didn't look that way when you were growing up there. That's war, right? You come back and you see that it's taken from you. People live this, though. People live this type of violation every single day. So it's happening in Gaza where they're being displaced and they're burning little boys and they're burning little Israeli boys, right? So it's happening there, but it's happening here too. So we don't have to choose. That's the benefit of peace at home, peace abroad. You're not stuck choosing which one you're going to take on. Well, clearly some of us have to focus our energies, but the point is you never have to choose between one or another. If you're creative enough, it can be both and, not either or. And until we start to really see that, until we really start to live that, VFP won't last forever. VFP won't live forever until we understand that. So even if you just want to take it from the perspective of, is VFP gonna survive? VFP will definitely survive, and thrive if we understand that we're promoting peace at home, peace abroad, unabashedly wherever we live. So in a way, it's kind of like the lifeline of the future of this organization, and I'm happy to have been a part of helping us figure out how we can get to this next level. Thank you.